You already know what time it is. It's your boy DJ Richie Skye back with some tea, interviews, recaps, and more. And be sure to check the links in the description of this video for trips, for books, one-on-one sessions, and more. Now let's get into the tea. What's going on, y'all? We are back with another video. Happy Sunday, y'all. Happy Sunday. Happy Sunday. So we got to talk about a couple of things, and we're going to get into them right quick and fast. Okay. So we always get clips from the episodes, to kind of get everybody warmed up before the episode comes on. And typically, if I talk about a clip, it's because there's something that I find interesting that maybe we haven't been able to touch on previously, or just something that happens in the scene that sort of catches my ear. Okay. Um, this scene right here from tonight's episode of The Real Housewives of Atlanta is very interesting because, as you can see, the headline here from our friends over at the Bravo Shade Room says that Porsha acknowledges that time makes a difference between her issues with Shamea and her past issues with Phaedra. Now, this title stems from the question that Andy asks or poses, and I don't know if it's from a viewer. I can't recall if it's from a viewer or if it's just from Andy. But the question is really about, well, how is it that you were able to get over your issues with Phaedra when Phaedra told you something that was allegedly not true and you repeated it on national TV and then blamed her for telling you? Why would you forgive her, but you're having a harder time maybe forgiving Shamea? And to that, Porsha says, well, the difference here is time. We had time away from each other, then we were able to come back together and have a conversation. So she then goes on to say that's not the same. That's not to say that the same can't happen with Shamea. So the question then comes up about whether or not Shamea is truly over the situation that happened with Phaedra, accusing her of, pretty much being promiscuous in the streets of Atlanta. And Shamea says, she kind of hems and haws around it. And she says that she never had a sit down conversation with Porsha and Phaedra about it, because that conversation with Phaedra, now, a lot of this happened over a decade ago, right? It's been a decade, right? Almost. It feels like a decade at this point, but in reality, I guess it was maybe like, what, 6, 7 years ago, 8 years ago, maybe, whatever. The bottom line is it's been some years. So the conversation in reference happened between Phaedra and Porsha about Shamea. And so Shamea's like, yeah, the three of us never had a sit down conversation. But Porsha says that, well, me and you had a sit down conversation about it. And then Phaedra chimes in and she says, you and I had a private conversation, just you, the two of us, about me coming back to the show. Now, I'm assuming this conversation was meant to clear the air between the two of them so that they would not have any lingering issues coming into the season. Maybe that's it. To be quite clear, we don't get a reasoning for that. But apparently this was a long private conversation. Now, I don't know if this, again, was to sort of quell any lingering issues that Shamea may have with her that she may bring to the forefront, because then, of course, we end up right where we are now, talking about issues that happened back then. But Phaedra asked her, she's like, well, we had a conversation. So I thought that if there were any issues, we would be past it. And Andy's like, well, are you really past it? And she's like, well, yeah, I mean, it is what it is. And Angela's like, no, she's not past it. She brought it up at Pamper by Porsha event. And Cynthia chimes in, yeah. And as Phaedra is sort of diving into what they talked about, Shamea cuts her off and she's like, the bottom line is and she just basically goes into a little spiel about how, they're really just trying to move on through it or whatever. I would have been interested in hearing what that conversation was actually about. And I think this is the first time we've heard of a private conversation happening between Shamea and Phaedra. But my wonder is if this is a situation where maybe Shamea felt like, public disrespect requires a public apology, or I kind of wonder for Shamea if I feel like this. I feel like there's a bit of Shamea that is, and I know that it's probably frustrating for us as viewers, but I do think that as a part of potentially a part of Shamea's personality, or maybe just her coming onto this show, if she's really trying to bury some issues, but she really still carries those issues and she's not speaking about them directly to the people that she needs to speak to about them. And she's speaking to the people around her circle about those issues in private, and then they're being brought to the surface. So in effect, you still have the issue, but you're just not addressing it with the person. That's what this feels a lot like for each of these issues that Shamea seems to be faced with on this show. In addition to her desire to have some sort of allegiance to Porsha, even though there have been issues where Porsha has clearly had some interesting interactions with Shamea that I don't think that a lot of us quite understand. But it's kind of interesting because while we came into this season really vouching for Shamea, like, oh my God, we're excited about her, I think as we began to see her actions, they became a little bit confusing to us. And so we kind of don't really understand her as much by the end of the season, and especially right now. And I think that what Shamea needs to do next season, if she chooses to come back to this show, is she has to start dealing with her issues with the people that she has issues with. Because a lot of the angst and stuff like that she was having with Angela at the beginning, and then even with Britt, seemed to be secondhand issues. Secondhand issues with Angela from asking Drew about Dennis. So therefore taking on an issue for Porsha to, I would assume, prove her allegiance to Porsha, but also still at the same time having issues with Porsha that are left unresolved, and then talking with the rest of the ladies about it, thinking that it may have been a safe space, but it clearly wasn't because this is a reality TV show and all issues seem to be game for public consumption. And now, then at the end of the season, having her issues with Britt as a result of seemingly issues that stemmed from a controversy that happened with Kelly and her glam team and Britt, and it just kind of seems very interesting. What I will say though is the stylist Paris is now working with Porsha, and I think it's great. Okay, because Paris and that styling really do be styling, really, really and truly. So now Paris is working with Porsha, and I think I think it's like that. At the end of the day, I'm going to tell you guys the truth. People who work in the industry of entertainment, they really just want to work. Like that's it. To be quite frank with you, Paris was already working with Housewives before this, so it's not the first. Kelly was not the first to pull Paris in. No disrespect to Kelly, but I'm just saying. So at the end of the day, when you talk about stylists, hairstylists, makeup artists, people, men's grooming, these people just want to work. They want to do the work. So I think it's absolutely great. And from what I could see, Porus and Paris have Brit's full support. So there's no love lost there. All right. I want to get into Love and Marriage Huntsville now because, and to be honest with you guys, I guess I could have done this live, but live does require a certain amount of energy, and I'm just feeling a little bit low energy today. I'm just a little bit exhausted from just a lot of things that have happened this past week, obviously birthday celebrations. And so I ask that you forgive me for not doing this in a more interactive way, but hopefully you guys will stay with me as we go through our Love and Marriage Huntsville discussion, because I do think it's important to sort of talk about where the show is now and dive into what we think about it in regards to just, I mean, everything, right? There's a lot that's changed with this show, and we're going to discuss it all. Brief pause real quick. If you are somebody who is interested in, making money with digital products, if you want to start selling your own product or service, if you are someone and you want to utilize YouTube or long form content to do so, definitely follow my YouTube channel here. It's literally been scrolling on the screen. It's Go Digital with Richie. Basically, every YouTube video is a free class. It is a free step-by-step guide to helping you get started on YouTube or up your content that you're already producing, your belief in yourself, that you can do this. And I basically give you the strategy to succeed on YouTube. It's literally right there. Every single step is right there in every single video. Just came out with another video last night. It took me forever to upload because, as you guys know, here in Maryland, the internet was out for a little bit for me, right? So anyway, I just wanted to put that in there. And also, too, I'm not sure if we may have a couple more spots left open for our Zanzibar trip. I'm not sure if it's closed or not yet, but the 22nd through the 28th of September, we will be in the Zanzibar. Okay. So be sure to check that out as well. All right. So Love and Marriage Huntsville. This is season 10. Okay. I'm going to read you guys the season synopsis. On the season of Love and Marriage Huntsville, when Martell commits to his fourth child's mother, our wedding bells far behind. I mean, I don't know if they can't say her name. I'm not sure what that's about, but my general assumption is that Ariane is going to be Martell's focus moving forward throughout the rest of these seasons. I'm not sure how you guys will feel about that, mostly because, Ariane has been really known for much of the general public as the former mistress, now turned partner of Martell's. And based on the fact that this show was centered around Martell and, his marriage to Melody in the beginning of this whole journey, I just feel like, do the audiences want to see that? Because I think it's going to feel like for the audience is they are rewarding someone for their for essentially, for essentially having a child with someone else while he was still married to his wife, who was someone that everybody knows on the show and considered to be the breakout star of the show. All right. And it says our wedding bells far behind. And so I wonder if we're going to dive into that story, considering that they don't mention her name here. I kind of wonder if we'll actually ever see her on the show. Do you want to see her on the show? If they are to continue the story with Martell, it seems like it would be very difficult to not have her be on the show. But I guess that's going to depend on whether or not you want to see him or her. All right, the Fletchers welcome 2 new grandchildren, but how will Destiny react to the news Lance had another woman pregnant while they were dating? All right, so this is investigated in the episode. I'm going to go ahead and tell you that right now. And I don't really get it, to be quite frank with you. And I guess we could always ask Destiny what the timeline of that situation was. What I can tell you is we do not see Sonny and Moses at all. I don't think that we will see them at all this season. There is nothing to be said about either of them. So I don't think that we'll get any of that here. And to be quite honest, based on the trailer, it looks like Destiny is moving on to someone else that is connected to the Fletcher family. So we'll just have to see how that goes. Latisha and Marsau's oldest graduates from high school, and the prospect of being empty nesters puts a spotlight on their marriage, and Tisha contemplates a new sense of purpose after motherhood. So when we do catch up with Latisha and Marsau, the thing that I think that, and I'm kind of going to go into the episode a little bit as we talk about the synopsis, but because I think that a lot, what I'm telling you about as I'm reading you through the synopsis is what really happened in the episode. And so anything outside of this synopsis that we don't cover, we'll cover afterwards. So just stick around for that in case you are interested. Some of you guys may or may not watch the show. I want to know in the chat, let me know, are you watching this season or not? Because I know that some of you guys are huge Melody Shari fans. So you may not feel like you want to continue watching the show. And for that, I do understand. I mean, I know how it feels when a favorite character leaves a show. It's kind of like, do you really want to watch it anymore? I feel the same way about Garcelle. Now, Garcelle was not the prime reason that I've ever watched Beverly Hills, but I just felt like something about her exit doesn't sit right with me, and the way that it happened, the way that certain things played out, it didn't resonate well in my spirit. But we'll have to wait and see, what the new season is kind of giving for me. And the same is going to extend to this particular franchise as well, right? All right. So Latisha and Marsau, if you guys remember, we saw them do a live, and it was a lengthy, meaty live, and it was really detailing how they did not want this season of Love and Marriage Huntsville to be focused on social media shenanigans. Like, social media should not be leading or driving their show. The hard part about that for me as a content creator, or I mean, just as a general viewer of the show, is that that's where we are with the landscape of social media. It becomes there's a certain symbiotic relationship that shows now have with social media that you honestly just can't escape. And Love and Marriage Huntsville is really no different. And the problem with their statements in that regard, while I can appreciate them because they were saying that they don't want social media to produce the show, is that you can't escape it. You can't escape the social media chatter. You can't escape that Martell did this interview with Ariane and another young lady making accusations about Marsau and Maurice. And I think that I can appreciate what Marsau and Latisha were saying, but if you are going to be bringing back Martell, then that question is going to have to be answered, right? Somebody's got to talk about it, essentially. Now, because it happened so long ago at this point, for me, I felt like that was 8 months ago. I am kind of like, to me, the interview was very odd. It did not resonate, I don't think, with the fans in the way that maybe Martell intended it for it to. And so, to be quite frank with you, I think that Marsau and Latisha would be better off just saying, we're not giving this any energy. And when somebody brings it up, just simply say, no, it's not true. Because what ends up happening is it is talked about in the episode. It is brought up by cast members. And the person that actually is tasked with taking this up with Marsau in person is Miss Wanda. Now, I would probably wager a guess that Miss Wanda is mainly back because Melody is not there. The last time we saw Miss Wanda, she and Melody were about to tussle, right? And so after that, what we realized is we didn't see Miss Wanda anymore. Whether or not you like Miss Wanda, one of the things that I've often said on this show is that it needs every show needs, in my opinion, every show needs some comic relief. And you have to have people who can break up the tension in a scene. Somebody that is so serious about what they're saying, but it's so bonkers that you just can't help but think, what are you saying? Right? When Miss Wanda said something about don't trust people that don't buy shoes that come in a box, I don't know what that means, but it resonated with my spirit in some way, shape, or form. Now, for some of you guys, you will feel like some of the things that Miss Wanda has said or done has not really resonated with you. And to that, I understand, right? But in terms of just a viewer of the show and someone who understands the structure of reality TV, you have to have it in order for a show to still feel somewhat fun. There has to be that element of chaotic wonkiness that a Karen Huger provides. I'm interested to see how that's going to work with Potomac. But those ladies can be a little wonky, wacky. You know, there's a for as serious as Dr. Wendy can be, she can still give wonk, right? Giselle can give a little wonk too. Ashley is kind of wonk. Stacy is wanky. You know, like there's a little bit of something there. So, but Karen is the ultimate. Karen is the ultimate. Similar to Kathy Hilton. That was Kim Richards. I mean, she played some of that role before, but Kim could get the girls together too, right? So I just think that shows do better when there's a little bit of like that, oh God, zaniness to it. And I think that it's a welcome return to form for me. That's just my opinion. And I understand everybody will have their own, but she's tasked with asking Marsau the hard-hitting questions that people want to know. Is this girl like, I mean, what's she talking about? What did you really do? And you know, one of the things that the Scott brothers do that I think probably annoys a lot of fans is, and I think that they know what they're doing. They've been at this long enough that I think that they know that if they answer questions with questions, then they're going to frustrate not only their wives but the but the viewers as well. I think that they do it purposefully at this point because they know that it's going to enrage people and cause an uproar and cause Miss Wanda to spiral, and therefore, interestingly enough, make Maurice or make Marsau spiral as well. So, I mean, he claims that all of this is not true. So, you know, it is what it is. To be honest with you, I guess I'm a little tired of the okay, y'all had 50 women's. I mean, because at the end of the day, I don't think that Latisha is leaving her husband. I don't think Marsau is leaving his wife. Regardless of whatever may have happened, I don't really care no more. I'm ready for something new, to be quite frank. But I am glad that Miss Wanda is back. While I'm going to take a brief pause in the reading the synopsis because I do need to touch on something that I did not enjoy and give you guys my rating of the episode, which I might wait till the end for the rating because no, I'm gonna give it to you now. I don't feel like that because what if you don't want to stay for the whole thing? I mean, I want you to stay, but you might not want to. Anyway, um, I do not like the opening credits. I was a fan of the last season's opening titles. I like the music for Love and Marriage Huntsville. It is instantly recognizable. It's jazzy. It's got a little sass and attitude to it. So I'm always a fan of the music of the opening titles, the opening credits, you know, where we see the cast and everybody's names and stuff like that. I actually just despise this opening credits. The reason I say that is because I cannot see them. I cannot see the people. Why am I looking at them through a fisheye lens that is so dark? Maybe it's not fisheye. I don't know what it is. All I know is that there's a filter over top of them that I just feel like, please take it off. Please just remove it. Okay. I know that, you know, for most shows, the episodes are done and then they can and sent out. But if by any chance, because I feel like what that filter does is I feel like it detracts from the work that is being done on the opening title. Give me stark, crisp imagery that shows me exactly who I'm looking at. I want to see. I want to see the people. I want to see what they got on. I want to see the facial expressions. I want to see it all. And to me, that filter takes away from all the work that everybody put into making that day, the opening title shoot, something special. And so I just don't want that for the franchise because I feel like it's like it takes the life out of the opening credits. And I'm like, why did we do that? Give me bold, clean, glossy. That's what I want to see. And I just feel like they missed the mark on that one. So moving on. Um, Tisha contemplates a new sense of purpose after motherhood. Kimmi and Maurice see their blended family in a new light when Jalen reveals he thinks Maurice raised the boys with a double standard. Okay, so we don't really get into the Jalen of it all at this point, but what we do get into is Maurice and this DUI dismissal, and whether or not, as Chris Fletcher had stated in a previous episode, and this is the problem that I have with Love and Marriage Huntsville not doing their reunions after we have seen the show, because they are now addressing something that was said. And I don't know if maybe it should have been addressed in the reunion because they had actually shot it. Did they see the episodes from the season or not? That's what I don't know. But Kimmi is forced to address an issue that is raised when Chris Fletcher, I think, told Melody that, oh, yeah, like getting the Scott, getting the having the girls sign NDAs like the Scotts or something to that degree that Chris Fletcher had said. And Kimmi now has to address that in this season. Well, that was over a year ago. And so I understand when TV shows come out, the cast does not have power or say so over when the episodes air. They don't have a say so over when the reunions air. That is typically a network decision. But I will say this is that I don't understand why we are addressing this issue now, because to be quite honest with you, I just don't feel like some of the times I just don't feel like we be getting the resolve that I think people want. And because that issue was so old, and granted, it's still an issue. It's just like, it's a little frustrating at times because I feel like certain things happen so far behind. And then the way that the reunion is shot, that should have been addressed at the reunion. But here we are addressing it anyway in real time in this episode. So there we have it. Minor frustration, but a frustration nonetheless. So we get into that, and Kimmi is asking, have you ever had a side chick sign an NDA? And of course, Maurice can't just answer the question the way that the question was asked. He answers the question in a way that an attorney could answer the question, which always makes him seem just a bit suspicious to me, I think, in my book, for a lot of the fans. Because you got to think about it. When we watch TV, we really kind of truly need things spelled out for us. I mean, not everybody is watching TV from the lens of a me, right? Or a you, who, like, when we watch these shows, we've been watching them for so long. Y'all know we know the ins and outs. We know how things move. We know how things shape. And so, but the casual viewer, they really do kind of need like answers. So when comments pop up on social media, it's usually because they don't have concrete answers, and now they feel a certain type of way because they feel like the personality who is being asked a question is not being forthcoming. So it creates an element of frustration for the cast when you could simply clear your name and answer the question honestly. It makes you look dishonest because it looks like you're playing around with your wife. So there's that. Now the Fletchers are dealing with the Destiny stuff and the Lance stuff. They're dealing with the two, the babies that are here now that have just come out of the blue, it seems, for us. Not for, I'm sure for Lance and Chris. I think it was Chris Jr. I'm not sure. Please forgive me. Let me say allegedly, because I don't want the people coming after me. Listen, I ain't got time for that. Because Norman is getting Norman too is getting his degree from Law and Order University. So we will have 2 attorneys in the fam. So I just want you guys to know that. I digress. BBK News, y'all. BBK News. Tune in, tap in. Okay, so I do miss Stormy on this show. But you know what? It is nice to see. I love seeing, and some of you guys, I'm gonna probably get some flack for this, but whatever. I love seeing like Stormy, Melody in the TikTok space and selling out their products and stuff like that. It's actually very motivating to me. I think I'm going to take my book and I'm going to do I think I might put that on TikTok Shop as well. So listen, if any of y'all want to be affiliates for my book, if you have read it and you want to make some affiliate coin on there, shoot me an email. Shoot me an email at RichieSkye@gmail.com. Okay. I love it. I feel like to me, they're like inspiration for what it is that we can do and what we can accomplish. And I think that's one of the things that I loved about both of those ladies that I feel like, we kind of missed that. And I still get that from this show. Don't get me wrong. We see Destiny going back into real estate with this whole situation. We see Kimmi and Maurice in the real estate. And for me, this cast is probably one of the most, I know for a lot of you guys, you may not feel this way, but to me, they are really aspirational and they make me reach for better and for more because I see them doing it. So that's exciting for me to watch. Okay, so the last thing that we need to touch on is Ken is oddly, I mean, it's not odd, but he is trying to have a relationship with brother Marquez. And good job, Ken, but no, it's not going to work. Marquez and Trish are very toxic people. I think that you can only serve as a middleman in this situation, to be quite frank, and I applaud you for trying to do that, but we all know it's not going to work. We all know that Trish and Marquez are just going to be their old toxic selves, and I want to give you some evidence of what I mean by that. And I think that there is PTSD that Trish is dealing with regards to Marquez that causes her to act out in ways that appear to be quite juvenile at times. What do I mean by that? So she has her girlfriend over, and girlfriend is like giving attitude to Marquez the moment that he walks in the door. Now, granted, I feel a certain type of way about the way Marquez handles his everything on this show, but I will say girlfriend definitely had it out for Marquez. And, that being Trish's friend, I can see it. But it was just kind of interesting. Marquez busts in the door. Why? I don't know. And Trish is like, how you come up in my house like that? And I'm kind of wondering the same thing too, because in my mind, I would have just been like, we're filming, you got to go. Like, I'm not going to give you, you're not going to give, I'm not going to give you energy in my house. I'm definitely not going to fight with you in a house that I own, rent, or am leasing, or even squatting in. Okay. You can't be in here. You need to go. And you are not going to raise my blood pressure today. End of story. Like, I'm not going to give you the power to ever, okay, ever come into my home that I have set up shop in and have my furniture placed in. You can't come in here and say nothing crazy to me or to my guests, even if she is rude to you. Because guess what? You don't own this place. You can get out and you can go. Drop the kids off at the front door. You don't have permission to be here. Period. Security, escort him out. Furthermore, the reason I say that they are both toxic for each other is because when Marquez pulls the very juvenile attempt at dragging his son into their drama, and the son appears to be the only person in the scene with sense. Yeah, absolutely. I'm saying it. Okay. Sorry to y'all. I really am. But I got to say it. If you give somebody to take you that far out of character, there is something still there. And you need to figure out what that is. Because Trish, you should be at a point now in dealing with him that you can see Marquez has a lot of growing up to do. And he is easily able to push your buttons. And he does so by using the kids, which again is a juvenile attempt at baiting you. And then Trish, you take the bait. One of y'all got to be the adult in this situation, and it can't be the kid. The kid, the son, bless his heart, is dad, leave, just leave. Dad, just leave. But as he's saying, as Marquez is saying what Trish's behavior is doing to their son, Trish, in my opinion, is now returning a juvenile serve by now asking the son to comment on all the ways that she is either not impacting him or impacting him. And really, to be quite frank with you, Trish needs to be the one to say, Marquez, do not bring our son into any of your antics. Leave, period. And if you refuse to leave, I will be calling the police and placing some type of order for you to never show up again unless we have a court-arranged date and time for visitation. Period. End of story. You have been in town and you have not seen the kids, not one time, but you've made time to go see Ken and not these kids. Ken is not your prime concern. You making friends and Google Gaga with Ken ain't gonna help you with these kids. So what you need to do is get right with the kids, spend less time with Ken, stay away from my house, and do right by your kids. End of story, Trish. Get him out of there. And you got the muscle to do it. Quite frankly, she could probably take him. The lady is Diesel. Okay, I'm about to go ahead to the gym myself. She made me want to work out. So, yeah, that's how I feel about the episode. If I had to rate this episode on a scale of 1 to 10 based on my enjoyment, they did have a lot to cover. And I think it's a good, here's the thing. With the way that Melody left, it was probably a good idea that they do not mention her in this episode. But you can't escape the fact that there was a Melody missing, right? But in every series of every show, an OG at some point is going to depart. It's just how it works. And this is why a show like Love and Marriage Huntsville, I think, has done a very good job of the way they bring people in and out of this show. I think is kind of reminiscent to me of the way that Love and Hip Hop does it, which is very different from how Housewives does it. There's no big announcements really and truly, to be honest with. I mean, sometimes there is, depending on how major the person is that's coming in. But they just, especially with Love and Marriage Huntsville, they kind of just phase someone in, introduce them, and then, I mean, and what I love is that these aren't well-known people, right? I mean, except maybe with the case of Stormy, you might have known her already. But I do feel like they just bring these couples in and maybe they'll stay, maybe they won't. And then they end up kind of phasing them in full time. That is the way that you do it so that you continue that you hopefully can continue the legacy. But I think that also too, what shows probably, well, it's kind of hard to avoid it. There will always be breakout stars. And so it does become a difficult thing when one of those breakouts does leave, especially when they were a core member of the core six, which was really the foundation of this show, which was the comeback group. So I would love to see how they're going to try to maybe integrate the cast in this regard as the show moves forward versus it being just like a bunch of couples that are supposedly in a friend group. Because what we know is that Martell and and Marsau are still have this lingering issue that it feels like based on Marsau's live, they will never be friends again. So why even try to continue to put these two people together if they're not ever going to naturally be friends? It just doesn't make any sense. And we can feel the disjointing of that in this show. So if I had to rate it on a scale of 1 to 10, I would give it an 8.5 for a solid comeback episode. I'm going to kind of reserve my judgment. And I also have to take I had to take away a point for that theme, for that opening credits. It just was not the bee's knees to me. So that's really all I got for y'all. I did enjoy it. I'm glad it's back. I love having, again, shows that I can really sink my teeth into. And my determination for this particular season is just to sink my teeth into it and go. That's really what that's really it. Like, that's the goal this season. Sink my teeth into it and go. So with that being said, make sure you guys, if you haven't already done so, make sure you guys pick up a copy of my book, The Wickedest Wives. It is literally a reality TV murder mystery series. Book 1 really sets the tone for the story. Well, book 2 really dives a lot further into each of the characters, their motivations, what happens when they don't get what they want, and the scandal and the drama just continues to explode. Okay, explode. There is a little bit of kink in there, a little bit. And I mean, not too much. We do keep it classy, especially in the first book. In the second book, it kind of gets a little kinkier. Okay, a little bit, just a little bit. And of course, we've got our trips coming up to Zanzibar. So be sure to look into that as well if you're interested in travel. With that being said, I will catch you all in the next video.